Would you like to learn how to make the classic French dish, beef bourguignon? Stay tuned to the next episode of Hilltop Stovetop. Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we're teaching you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we are going to be making that French classic beef bourguignon, and it is a recipe that I tried for the first time several years ago when the movie Julie and Julia first came out, and in that video they featured beef bourguignon, and among many other of Julia Child's wonderful recipes. And when I saw the movie, I said, I remember as a kid watching Julia Child on TV. That was before the days of YouTube. And Julia Child, just like me, gave cooking lessons out of her own kitchen. And she was an ordinary cook who sometimes made mistakes and would show you how to fix them. And when I saw the movie, I said to myself, hey, I've got that cookbook. And there we go, Julia Child's, and along with Lisette Berthaud and Simone Beck wrote Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And I thought it was very appropriate for this episode because our last episode we made a carrot cake based on a New Zealand recipe, and I was showing you how you had to adjust recipes when you moved from different countries. Julia Child made this this book a bestseller because she took French cooking and converted it to terms that the average North American cook would understand. So we're going to start off with some basic, I'm going to say basic French cooking. The secret to this, beef bourguignon is essentially a beef stew made with red wine, but the secret is precision in your preparation, and you have to be patient with it. You don't want to rush this. You'll notice I don't have our Instant Pot out. We're not doing this under the pressure cooker. We're doing this on the low and slow. So I already have in our pot some bacon that is browning. This is bacon that I actually got at my local butcher, so it's very, very lean bacon. But we're going to brown this up. There was a little bit of olive oil in there, so we're going to start with that. And then when that is brown, we're going to lift that out, set it aside while we brown the beef, and then we'll gradually add in a few other ingredients. What you see here is all we need. Onions, mushrooms, carrots, salt, pepper, thyme, bay leaf, flour, tomato paste, beef broth, and red wine. So pretty basic kind of stuff, but the most amazing end result. So we'll pause for a little bit while this browns, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back. Our bacon is browned. Now I strained it out using a slotted spoon, and the point of this is we're going to start browning the beef in the combination of oil and bacon fat. Because that bacon was so lean, I've actually added a little bit more oil to the pan. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to gradually add in, this is just basic stewing beef, but I've dried it with a paper towel first. If you don't dry it, it doesn't brown properly. And we're just going to add in a few pieces at a time. Again, this is the beginning of our showing a little patience. You don't want to put in too many at once and have it swimming. You want it to be able to brown. That's 7 pieces in this pot, which, by the way, is my new Pampered Chef cast iron pot, which I'm so far just loving. And I'm going to put a link down below if anybody is interested in this. This is really nice quality, and this is the kind of cookware that'll last you a lifetime. So great for yourself and great for a gift. and great for Christmas presents. So now we'll just patiently wait for each one of these to brown. I'll set them aside. I'll mix them in with the bacon as we go. And we'll see you. It's going to take me a few minutes to get this done, so there's no point in you hanging around while I do that. We'll fast forward through this part, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so there's the last of our beef browned up. And now the next part is we're going to do some of these sliced onions and the carrots. So the same oil in the pan. And we're going to put those in and the carrots. And let those simmer away until they're just browned. And you may have noticed that there was a bowl of whole onions here, and those I've moved over to the stove where we are just browning them whole in a little butter, and those are going to be added later on. Now this is sopping up pretty much the last of that oil. There we go. So now we're going to take this and add back all of the beef and the bacon. And of course the juice that accumulated with it. Stir that up. And then we're going to add in some salt and pepper at this point. And 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm just going to sprinkle that over. And then mix this all together. I'm actually going to turn off the burner now. And I've got the oven preheated to 425 degrees. So once I've got this all coated with the flour, then I'm going to pop it in the oven and leave it there for 4 minutes. Take it out, stir it around, leave it for another 4 minutes. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this flour that's on the beef and kind of give it a little bit of a crust. So we will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so while we're waiting for the 4 minutes to be up, we're going to start another little job, and that is sauteing the mushrooms. So I've got some butter here, and I'm going to put in some of the mushrooms. A quarter of the mushrooms. You want these to be chunky. This is a stew. But when we're browning them, one of the things is we're not putting the whole thing in. We want to put a little bit at a time and brown them a little bit at a time. And while that's doing, we're also keeping an eye on these onions, which I'll show you in just a moment. But basically what's happening is the outside of those are browning. And when they're finished browning, I'm going to pour some of the beef stock onto the onions and cook those separately in the oven. You'll also notice that I'm using my Julia Child wine glass, which a quote from her, "I enjoy cooking with wine. Sometimes I even put it into food." And I knew right away when I tried this one the first time it calls for 3 cups of red wine, so how can you go wrong? All right, so here we are. Our second 4-minute time frame is up. So we'll just switch over here to the overhead. First off, we've got these onions, which are browning, and I'm going to add in about a cup or so of the beef broth into that. And then those will go into the oven. And then we'll just have a quick peek at our stew here. So hopefully we've got a good overhead shot so you can see how this is beautifully browning up here. Okay, and I'm going to pop this back in the oven for one final 4-minute stint while these mushrooms are finishing browning, and then we're going to put it all together. So we'll see in a few minutes. All right, so our meat is out of the oven, and so now we're going to add in these browned mushrooms and 3 cups of red wine. And remember, when we're putting wine in things, any alcohol is going to burn off, so you don't have to worry about that part. But the key is don't be chintzy with your wine. If you wouldn't drink it, don't put it in your cooking because it's just going to ruin whatever you're cooking. We're adding half a teaspoon of ground thyme and some bay leaves, which, as we all know, not only add to the flavor but also help with tenderizing. And we've got about a tablespoon of tomato paste here. Mix that all up. And then once again, we're going to be patient, and we're going to put this in the oven. I've lowered the temperature in the oven to 325 degrees. We're going to put a lid on this, and we're going to let it simmer in the oven for between 3 and 4 hours until that meat is perfectly tender. Now, don't do what they did in the movie, which was fall asleep and let it burn. 3 or 4 hours, this is a great thing to put on a weekend meal. It's also one of those things that'll be better the second day, so if you want to do it on the weekend and then have it for your Monday night dinner, that's fine too. So we will see you in between 3 and 4 hours for the final step of this. Well, we're back after patiently waiting a few hours for this to be ready, and as you can see, it is gorgeous and brown, and this is what I love about beef bourguignon, is the color of it is just so amazing. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to scoop it out using a slotted spoon, and we're going to reduce some of the liquid in here. And this is something that, again, takes a little patience, but we want it to be a thicker sauce. And the one thing that I should have mentioned, I forgot to mention putting the beef broth in there. So after we put the wine in, we put in enough beef broth to make sure that all of the meat and everything was totally covered. And the other thing is those onions that I was cooking separately, really you're supposed to have quite small onions, and I couldn't find any really small onions, like nothing more than an inch in diameter. So what I've done is I've cooked them the same way that you would here normally, but instead of incorporating it into the stew, I'm going to serve them kind of as a side. So we're just going to let this simmer now till it's about half of this, so you get about half of this volume. So you can see where the line is on the pot. We've got quite a bit of this has come out, so we're going to let that continue to simmer and reduce. It's going to take probably 15 minutes or so, and we will be back when it is ready to pour over. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back, and our sauce has thickened up nicely, and I want you to note here that it has gotten really thick without adding any thickening agent. I didn't add any flour or anything. It's just a case of simmering it until it had reduced in volume and until it coats the back of a spoon. So it's thick enough to do that all on its own without any extra thickening agents. But I did have to, I had to boil it for 15, 20 minutes and stirring it constantly. So I've got my nifty little stirrer here that does a great job on that. So now we're just going to pour that sauce over the meat and vegetables. So here we go. Slide this out of the way and give this a bit of a stir. And that is just delightful looking. Now, traditionally, this is served with boiled potatoes, but you can serve it with noodles or with rice. So I have some mashed potatoes here, and of course our little roasted onion to go with it. And of course, you can serve it right away as soon as it gets to this stage, or you can put it in the fridge and then warm it up the next day. And it's actually, like any stew, is better the second day. So there we have it, beef bourguignon. It seems like it's a fancy French dish, which it is, but as long as you're patient and follow the steps, anybody can make this, and it is so, you think it looks good, it tastes even better. It's pretty amazing. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Hilltop Stovetop, where we made beef bourguignon, and that you'll remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you at the next episode. Bye-bye for now.